I am making an open world Wizards game and it runs on your phone. Think Hogwarts Legacy. Okay, don't think Hogwarts Legacy. But think of it as a great game on a mobile market full of garbage. I've been working for the past 2 years on this project and it's finally coming into place. Let me show you how I did it. The first thing I needed was movement. I wanted the player controls to feel smooth and precise, but to add movement you need something to move. For example, this wizard that I made after hours of learning Blender. I read him, then I wrote some code and there you go, it walks. But it can't just walk on a blank plane. I need people to play this game. So I had to create a world. I started with some props and a terrain. And voila, garbage. But that's how it started. I want action in this game. Lots of it, with amazing spells, summoning monsters, teleporting, elemental action, and so on. So I modeled 3 bad boys to start with. I wrote some code for AI controls which basically keeps track of the player and attacks him if he's in sight. I made a system which allows every entity to equip weapons and I gave everybody wands. Looking good so far. What I like to do when developing stuff is to quickly prototype something and then iterate on that. This game is about exploring and action, but it is also about farming, trading and building a home. I imagined this town built along a river with cliffs, grass and a lot of stunning nature. I wanted it to look great. Look, I'm a technical guy with a background in programming. Art was never my thing, so trust me, this took ages to learn. So I began with a water shader. A shader is basically a set of instructions which runs on your GPU to tell it how to draw something on the screen. So it looks like water, but it's actually just visuals, like a TV screen showing a water animation. Then I bought some better textures, no way I can create this myself. And I made another of those shaders but for windy, colorful grass. To render a ton of grass, I used this thing called GPU instancing, and it works great. Instead of having the GPU draw 1000 blades of grass one by one, it says, hey GPU, here's one blade, now place it in the following 1000 spots. I used similar approaches for rocks, cliffs, bridges, trees, whatever you call it. It took forever, but now it finally looks like something I don't hate. Next, I wanted a town which you can build and modify and have NPCs in it which can freely roam and interact with each other. After researching the topic, I ended up with a grid which holds information about what each square has in it. The first buildings looked kind of bad, and their placement and rotation was very clunky and unnatural. I experimented with a lot of styles and AI generated art, and I finally ended up with a few models which I like. For the building system, I used what I call a building ghost. Red if you can't place it, green if you can. But what I'm most proud of is this really nice effect that plays whenever you move a building. The first iterations of fighting were very bad too. The biggest issue was that attacking was too repetitive. Turns out there are not too many ways you can swing a wand. Even with multiple animations, it still looks the same. I fixed this by chaining up to 3 attacks and I added cooldowns, just like in Brawl Stars. If you attack, the cooldown stops charging. This pushes players to use the full chain, which feels way more satisfying. Wow. Then I animated health bars and I made enemies do strafes so they don't just come and eat your projectiles. Last but not least, I added juice. Juice is that one thing that makes a game feel fun and rewarding. Things like smashing everything with an axe in God of War and big splashes of blood and frame freezes in Prototype. Enemies have to stop for a split second when being hit. I made freeze animations for each of them. Then I made them do a white flash and I added screen shakes and some post-processing for critical strikes. I really like this. To wrap this up, I added support for multiple weapons and I made a tool which helps me create any spell I can think of. It works like gas, which is a system that big games use to manage abilities. Another important part of this game is the harvesting and farming systems. I like this a lot because instead of using pickaxes, shovels, axes and the tools you usually have in survival games, in this game you only need your wand. I want this to be interactive and use the player input to perform these operations, not just pressing buttons. First of all, every weapon suddenly becomes a tool. For example, you can harvest with a wand, but you can also harvest with these bracelets and they have different animations. Second of all, I want this to be very intuitive and easy to use, so I don't want any extra buttons on the screen. This means that joysticks should harvest, fight or farm depending on the context. I do this by registering enemies and what their current interaction with the player is. This means that if you are close to a harvesting target and you are engaged in combat, you won't be able to harvest. But all these amazing things need to come together into a game. So let me tell you what this game is about. This is Alena, and this is Zektrinos. As you can see, Zektrinos has captured Alena and you don't like it. After a bunch of arguing, Zektrinos shoots you, so you end up unconscious on a shore. That's it, now you have to go back to Zektrinos and take Alena home. And you are going to do this by crafting legendary equipment, fighting bosses and evolving your town. This might sound like a lot, but I'm building this game step by step. I didn't know how to do shaders, AI or anything really when I started. I just wanted to make something that I would enjoy playing. There are still a lot of things I want to improve. The UI is kind of buggy, the animations are rough in some places, and I still have to optimize performance for lower end phones. But now I finally have something that looks like a game. A game where you explore, fight, build, farm, and hopefully get a bit lost in it. I'll keep making devlogs to show you what's new. If this looks interesting to you, consider subscribing or leaving a comment. That actually helps a lot. Thanks for watching.